South Korea's opposition parties have taken a dramatic step, submitting a motion to impeach President Yoon Suk Yeol. This follows outrage over his brief declaration of martial law, which sparked widespread protests and political condemnation. Now, the Liberal Democratic Party, holding a majority in parliament, is now calling for Yoon's immediate resignation or face impeachment proceedings. For more on this, let's now speak to Director for African Studies for the Study of the United States at the University of Pretoria, Professor Christopher Isike. Prof, thank you so much for your time and good afternoon to you. Perhaps let's start with what led to these developments. Yesterday, President Yoon, as we've said, declared the emergency martial law order, but lifted it several hours after the National Assembly voted down the decree, in fact, 6 hours later. Just talk to us about what the key events that led to him declaring martial law.
Yeah, good afternoon, and thank you for having me as always. So it's essentially, political tussles, between his Yoon's party and the Democratic Party, which is the main opposition party. I think that there have been a lot of challenges he's had since he became president, but the one that eventually led him to declare that ill thoughts and ill-fated martial law was budget cuts by the parliament, which, according to him, were going to affect his program for the next year, and for him also affected the critical areas of his administration. Unfortunately, he's not been largely supported by his party, and this is where the real issues are. But that budget cuts, was what was the turning point for him.
The implications of martial law are far-reaching, of course. Is there any precedent now in South Korea's history for a similar declaration of martial law? Many suggesting not. So perhaps the question becomes, what does this situation then reveal about the current state of South Korea's democracy and perhaps political stability in that country?
Well, like you said, there's no precedent for this during the different republics they've had. They are in the Sixth Republic now, except maybe during the military era, where there was an military interregnum in politics in that country. And there were a lot of draconian laws that were put then in place that many people in South Korea abhor and do not want to go back to. And that's why you find that even his own party is not supporting him in this regard. I do not think that this is going to really be a major political crisis. Why? Because it's not like, for example, the Republican Party in the United States that is fully supportive of its president-elect, right? And even that, there are also limitations on what he can do, as you can see from the outcry from his own party, Mr. Trump's party, about some of the nominations he's made. In this case of South Korea, you have if his own party is not supporting him, and the major opposition parties are also not supporting him, civil society, labor are not supporting him, then it's really not a political crisis per se. I think that impeachment will go on smoothly, and his replacement will be announced, and then maybe they will have a bit of respite. So to that extent of having to change a president mid-term, that can become a crisis, but it's not one that will fester.
And that was going to be my next question in terms of what does the future of President Yoon look like? He has been asked to resign. Failing that, the impeachment process will then take hold. You seem to think that it will be a smooth transition then, meaning that the crisis is not really a South Korean problem, but mainly a President Yoon problem.
Yes, that's what it is exactly, because his party is not behind him, and if his party is not behind him, and he didn't have quite a big lead in the last elections, that would have made him dominant. So I think that this was the last straw for him, going back, recalling emotive feelings about the military past, and the fact that South Korea is a democracy today is a major distinguishing factor between their brothers and sisters on on the other side of the border, North Korea. And it's something, the liberal democracy, the freedom of speech, civic responsibilities and expression, are some of the political cultures and values they seem to hold very dearly. And that's why you see that his party is not going to support him. And if they don't support him, then I expect that, of course, the Democratic Party will have their way in Parliament, in getting him impeached.
And I mean, the next question is twofold, really. Just talking again about what these developments mean from a geopolitical standpoint, especially as South Korea is involved, mentioning North Korea and China specifically, and what essentially has been the reaction, from other key stakeholders like the United States, for instance.
Well, Yoon has kind of presented himself as a hardliner towards North Korea, which is something that resonates with the people. And some of the budget cuts he's talking about, according to him, although it was not specific, he felt that they are all key budgets that are essential to the country's core functions. But what that means is not known. But the problem, the issue is that he's had problems since his election, and he has really not had a smooth sail. So maybe a replacement that is commonly accepted to everyone will bring back some stability, and the country can focus on its liberal economics, although there's been some economic challenges here and there over the last couple of years. But I think that someone who can come in to carry on and ensure their stability and maintain relations with important allies like Japan and the United States, while also at the same time keeping North Korea at bay, would be something that his replacement would look towards doing. And if that is the case, will not really affect relations with key partners and allies much.
Prof, thank you so much for your time and, of course, just your analysis on this matter.